Hey guys, let's talk about books. Now, of course, the second that I started setting all of this up, the tree trimmer guys ended up in my street. They are chainsawing down trees, and so I'm doing my best to mitigate that sound, and also I'll do my best in post. But if you hear chainsaws, that is what is happening, is the tree trimmer guys are keeping me safe by keeping the branches away from the electricity lines. But inconvenient timing for us, right? Hi, I'm Elizabeth. After that rant, I'm Elizabeth. I'm a bookseller and a book buyer and a book reader. And here we're talking about 5 books that I did actually read a while ago. So bear with me if I can't remember the details of things. The first one today is that's nice and shiny. Peter Frankopan's The New Silk Roads. This one is the first edition. The subtitle is The Present and Future of the World. I actually listened to this. I picked this up secondhand, but I ended up listening to it. The revised version is just called A New History of the World, I think. And it's got a bit of extra detail updated and revised and whatever. This was a bestseller when it came out, and I can see why. It's a very digestible history, but it pivots the central point from Western European centric basis to the Middle East. And so all the facts, all the story, the narrative across time is focused on the Middle East and everyone's interactions with the Middle East rather than everyone's interactions with England and France and Germany and Italy, which is your usual history. Let me consult the chapters. The chapters, what have we got? The roads to the East, so why the West established a relationship with the Middle East. The roads to the heart of the world. Obviously, well, maybe not obviously, in early maps, medieval maps, Jerusalem was positioned as the center of the world, and you can probably guess why. It is the central city for Christianity, which was the dominant religion in Europe at the time. And then going forward, of course, Mecca becomes a central religious city as well when Islam is created in the 7th century. Don't test my knowledge in this way. And then it goes on to exploring over to East Asia, China, that area, and then through to how we came to have our current crises in the Middle East, plural, regarding resources in particular, how that started, how that's going, why the US in particular felt that it was so necessary to stick their dicks in there, and how it backfired every fucking time. If you want context for that and context for why the Middle Eastern region is important in the context of all world history, give this a go. It was very readable, very good but brief overview. That is a criticism that I read of it a lot. But if you've read a few broad time spectrum histories, then you will know that you have to sacrifice depth for breadth. And that is what happens here. So again, they're all teasers, they're all tasters, they're all giving you the story, and then it's up to you to dig deeper into a particular point in time, place in the world, if that's what you want. But in terms of a digestible, broad history, let's turn it the right way. Really rate this. It was really interesting and a good lesson. So if you're looking for something just on your commute or on your walk, this was a good one. The next one I read was on Kindle, and that was Lives of Bitter Rain by Adrian Tchaikovsky. This is edition 2.5 in the Tyrant Philosophers series. It came out after book 3, which is Days of Shattered Faith, but it's the origin story of one of the main characters in that book, Angeli, or Angeli, however you want to say it. And it's her childhood and the way that she came to be in the position that she's in as outreach officer, like a diplomat in a city-state that hasn't been converted to the Palestine sway. It's her origin story, how she came up through the ranks to get to this point, and then the moral and philosophical compromises she has to make to get there, and also when she's diplomat. And reading this places her decisions in the book, The Days of Shattered Faith. It completely reorients you in who she is and why she's making the decisions that she makes. And This is something that Tchaikovsky does in this series in general. It is the story of broad colonialism and ongoing war and the impact that that has on people and places, but it centers one or a group of people and the way that they're impacted by the war, but also the way that their actions inform the broader thing, because everyone's a small person, but every choice that is made impacts something broader, especially someone in a position of power like a diplomat. This is a series that I'm enjoying. Book 4 I just finished, so I'll talk about that in a future episode. And this one was, I think Tchaikovsky said on Blue Sky that he wrote this novella accidentally as like exploring the backstory of this character, and then it just turned into a fully fledged novella. So of course he published it because the man is a machine. And I would say Tyrant Philosophers is his peak of writing. The rest of it could take it or leave it. Some of it I can't even take it, but Tyrant Philosophers is great, and I really enjoyed this installation. Next was Shirley Jackson's I was like, that looks upside down. Yes, it does. The Haunting of Hill House, Shirley Jackson. I didn't enjoy this, and I'll tell you for why. I started out with We've Always Lived in the Castle, which blew my mind. I couldn't believe that I had not read Shirley Jackson before. It was amazing. It is a gothic horror, and I loved it. But this one, it's more of a psychological thriller. So we start out with Eleanor. She's invited to come to a potentially haunted house to work with an academic professor, Dr. Montague, who is investigating the hauntings and trying to scientifically measure and explain in the context of believing that they are real and trying to prove things, objective, empirical evidence of them. So Eleanor, escaping a shit family situation, she takes up the invitation and she goes. She steals the family car and off she goes. And she intends to spend the summer there. She meets the other characters who have also been invited to come along and help with this study, sensitives to the phenomena. And it unravels from there. And because it's psychological horror, you don't know if it's real. You don't know if these things are happening. You don't know if they're in Eleanor's head. The ending in particular, which I will not spoil for you, is it real? Did it happen? And doesn't matter if it is real or not. That's the bit that I have struggled with, is that it's not clear cut. It's not straightforward. It's not an outside force like it is in We Have Always Lived in the Castle. In that one, it's really straightforward who the bad guy is, outside forces coming into the home. Whereas in this one, Eleanor has come into the home, and is the home rebelling, or what the fuck is happening? I don't know. And I was confused, and I didn't enjoy that feeling of, it wasn't even unsettling, it was just unclear, which, people love. And having read more Shirley Jackson now, not just We've Always Lived in the Castle, I understand that's part of what she writes, but I'd prefer something that's a bit more concrete. That's a me problem. In terms of a horror story, perfectly cromulent, and I can see why people love it, but it's not a horror story for me. Next up is another one that was on my Kindle. I don't know if I said before, Lives of Bitter Rain was on my Kindle. Testimony of Mute Things by Lois McMaster Bujold. This is episode 15 of the Penric and Desdemona series. Penric is a mage, a wizard, a sorcerer, I think is what he's called, because he has a demon inside him, and the demon is called Desdemona, and that's why it's Penric and Desdemona. And I complained in the last installment video that I was growing bored of Penric and Desdemona because Penric is a master now and he's stopped the struggle of learning, and that's the element that I enjoy in these books. So this one is back in time before Penric meets his wife and has children and settles down and becomes a master. It is a murder mystery, which I always love. And I just had such a good time with young Penric learning about the world and solving the murder. It was great. It reminded me, it reinforced for me why I was struggling with the later chronological books because of Penric being a master. But another one has just been announced. I don't know if it's for sale yet. And it is following on from the last book, book 14. So Penric, like modern day Penric, current age Penric. So, I mean, I'll read it and we'll see. But this one, it was a throwback and I really enjoyed it. And Lois McMaster Bujold did say that she wanted to write this story before she lost the feeling of young Penric. So I feel like this is the end of Penric's learning, growing student days kind of stories. And that's fine. As long as I know what to expect, I'm going to keep reading them. But I really enjoyed this installation. There is literally no point telling you what happened because book 15 in a series and one is in the middle of the chronology. Anything that I tell you is going to be confusing or spoilers. So start at the very beginning if you're interested in Penric and Desdemona, but I do recommend you start because I did really enjoy them. I'm still kind of enjoying them. My footy's under me and has gone to sleep. Let's talk about the last one for this episode of 5 reads, and that is The Mystery of the Blue Train by Agatha Christie. I've just realised I haven't said any publication years or any details about these books, but they will be on the screen, etc. as usual. The Mystery of the Blue Train is number 6 of Poirot. Is there a list inside? Poirot 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, I know my stuff. I didn't enjoy this one. I enjoyed bits of it. So we have the story of a lady who inherits some money and she decides, fuck being a house servant, I'm going to go visit the Riviera or somewhere down that way and see my cousin or some family. And she gets on the blue train from Paris to wherever in southern France they go, and somebody's murdered. Which, you know, it happens. It happens. And some other fella on the train is really interested in what happened, and he's got, you know, perfectly manicured moustache and he speaks with a Belgian accent. And our main person, what's her name? I can't remember her name. Anyway, she strikes up a friendship with this man who's obviously Poirot and helps him investigate the murder. It's also part of a jewel thief situation and a estranged husband situation. Blah, blah, blah. You know, Poirot's going to solve it in the end. That's not the part that I enjoyed. The actual plot of how this person came to be murdered on the train and why and how it was achieved, blah, 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 and everyone has an alibi, was quite convoluted and I didn't care. But the things that I do like about these books is Poirot and the way that he just gets on with people, his interactions with other people. Even though we're never in Poirot's head, we can see from his interactions with other people what he's thinking about them and where his suspicions lie. And the charm of these books is really in Poirot's social manoeuvring rather than any of Trixie plot. Oftentimes the plot is secondary to just hanging out with Poirot, which is fine as long as you know what to expect. And it was a perfectly cromulent installation in the Poirot series, and I did read more after this. So that's another 5 books that I read. I can hear the chainsaws have stopped now, which is exciting. And I am going to go for a walk in the beautiful sunshine. Hope you have a good day, and I will see you next time.